So when I first saw what I'm going to talk about today, I thought it was a little bit of a joke, that this was more of a conspiracy. But it turns out this is true. Did you know that the US government spends millions of dollars every single year in order to block our freedom of speech? Yeah, this isn't a joke. This is true. And if you are only seeing some of the stories out there, it is because the federal government doesn't want you to see some of them, because they classify them as misinformation. Now, here's what you need to know. The US government funds a group. It's called the Global Engagement Center. Now, here's what happens. They work with internet companies to promote certain narratives and block those that they don't feel are sharing the right message, right? Again, this isn't a joke. I wish this wasn't true. I wish that our freedom of speech was not being impacted, but it is. The U.S. government funds this program, and they're funding it with U.S. taxpayer dollars. And as a result, we are not seeing most, a lot of these commonly blacklisted sites. Again, these are more Republican-based, and the ones that are least blacklisted, they're more left-leaning. And this is what's so frustrating is, and I see this all the time here on YouTube, I see it on Twitter, Facebook, really all over the place, is that if you are spreading misinformation, well, yes, hopefully you are getting your articles or your videos or your tweets or whatever, hopefully they're not being blasted to everybody, right? It should be the facts. That's what should be being shared. But here's the problem. And I've tested this multiple times over the past 3 to 4 years. If I'm talking about the current administration, right? The Biden administration, for example, because that is our current administration. The problem is, if it's not good news, it's bad news. The videos get seen less, which is fine, because I want to share the truth. I want to give you the facts. Okay, I'm not just looking for views. But that's part of the issue is some people, that's all they care about. They don't care about the facts, they care about the views. They care about the engagement on a post. That's problematic. Now, let me just give you an example. Here are some of the sites that are blacklisted the most. And let me know if you consume any information on any of these sites. We got the New York Post, The Blaze, The Daily Wire, The American Conservative, and even Newsmax. Here's what I can tell you. I read the New York Post. I read the Daily Wire. I've read the American Conservative a handful of times, and I read Newsmax, right? I get information from all those sites. The one site I can say I've never been to is The Blaze. Now, these are the websites that are blacklisted the least. We have the Washington Post, BuzzFeed, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Associated Press, and New York Times. Now, this is what I think is interesting. When I type in, let's say, Democrat on Google and I hit news, you know what I see first? I see stuff from the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Associated Press, the Washington Post, and the New York Times. I don't see stuff from The Blaze, the Daily Wire, the American Conservative. I don't see that. The only time I go and see things from Newsmax is when I type in newsmax.com. That's when I see it. So I think that's kind of interesting. When I type in a certain keyword to go find out the news for the day, well, that's the problem. Is I'm not seeing a lot of these sites. And some of these sites, yeah, they're going to give the same information, but it's going to be from a different point of view, which I've told you guys before. You have to get both points of the story, both parts, right? There's two sides to every story, and you want to get both so that you can make the most informed decision for you personally. Now, you can probably guess that obviously the ones that are blacklisted the least are more left-leaning. And is that because of the current administration? Some say yes, it is. But let me know, which one of these sites do you prefer to get your news from? And like I said, if something doesn't fit the Democratic agenda, then there's a good chance that it's not, I'm not going to say it's going to get blocked, okay? Because we don't know all the facts, but there's a good chance it's not going to be seen as much as something that does fit the Democratic agenda. Now, we all know that the Global Engagement Center works in the back, right? It's not something that we really see. They work in the back end to either promote sites that are spreading the correct narratives, or they work to block the reach of those that are, and the revenue of those that are not really falling in line, right? That's a problem. Now, even the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, he had this to say, and I quote, U.S. taxpayer dollars should never be funneled to left-wing disinformation groups that are trying to blacklist American news outlets. Freedom of speech and the press are core American values and must be protected against radical progressives seeking to censor opinions and facts that don't fit their political narrative. Pretty much what I said. Now, here's the reason I bring this whole thing up. The reason I brought this whole thing up is because this is something that was recently shown. I didn't realize this was a thing. I didn't realize we're spending tens of millions of dollars every year in order to fund this one group. But again, I bring it up because recently, articles that I've been seeing, they're not being shared. And again, these are from major media outlets. But when I bring up the news, and people are like, I've never seen that. Nope, never seen that. I watch the news all the time, never seen it. That's false information. In stuff that I say here on the video. And that's what gets me to think like, is there a reason why people are not seeing all this information? And again, let me know if you've ever seen this. Have you seen the news regarding this one group, the Global Engagement Center? Or are you seeing that your news that you are getting is very left-leaning? Let me know down in the comment section below. Now, I just learned about the Global Engagement Center a few days ago, and I thought this was outrageous that the U.S. is using taxpayer dollars in order to fund this group. But I do want to say one thing, even though I think this is interesting, right, to say the least. One thing I do think is that, yes, there are websites out there. There are people that spread a lot of misinformation. And for those people, they shouldn't get their video or articles or posts or tweet, whatever. They shouldn't get them seen as much as others. But do we just come out and block everybody that posts something that we don't like? Absolutely not. And that's one of the things I try to do here on this channel as well, is even though I may not like somebody's comment, as long as it's not attacking somebody else, I'll leave it. But if it's attacking somebody and there's really no basis to it, then I'm going to try my best to delete it, because it really provides no value. But if somebody's just expressing their opinion for whatever reason, whether it's towards me or towards something that is said here on the channel, then that is their opinion. They have the freedom of speech, and so I'm going to let that comment sit. But am I going to delete it? Absolutely not. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you think the U.S. government should be spending U.S. taxpayer dollars in order to block our freedom of speech? Let me know. Say yes or no.